Remembering basketball legend Kobe Bryant, a Philly native, how he changed the game and impacted our lives beyond his life by itself. Stay tuned. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the More Than Philly Sports Network. It is great to be here with all of you today. It is the 26th of January here in 2022, a date that for the last 2 years now will be ringing a bell in a lot of people's minds, and that just shows how great of an impact that the late, great Kobe Bean Bryant, his daughter, as well as the other people that were involved in that tragic helicopter crash were just 2 years ago. Certainly a lot of sports that Gavin and I are going to take some time to go through today. But as we did a year ago today, and as we will continue to do as we remember the impact of these people beyond just the lives that they lived, we're gonna take some time today to honor Kobe Bryant, honor those that were also involved in that accident. As always, drinking alongside Gavin Tony. Gavin does give me permission one day a year to throw the purple and gold on behind us. Of course, I used it when the Lakers won the title a few years ago. That's a conversation we have to have because they looked pretty good last night with AD back.
This one, you're 500.
But we'll talk about that. And Gavin's got the Lakers gear on today and his Atlanta Braves go-to shirt. I got to start wearing a hat as my hair needs to be really.
Zach, I go see my barber this weekend. We're going.
Guys, I'm getting it tomorrow. I promise tomorrow is all side will be cleaned up.
Can you leave the top long though?
I will, but I gotta do it more. I gotta be more presentable. But nonetheless, I'm glad to be here. Glad to be with everybody today. Gavin, welcome back to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Zach. Outside of being lectured for 4 hours by Zoom teachers, and Zach, one had the nerve to actually want to talk to me for an extra couple minutes, so I really didn't get that many breaks as I was supposed to. But I'm good, Zach. Today is a bittersweet day around the world. Well, I know we're going to get into that in a little bit later, but how are you? How's everything going?
I'm good. Happy to be back. Of course, trying to increase the frequency here as we go into the new year. Again, 2 years, Gavin. We've been doing this almost a couple months from now. We'll be celebrating our 2-year anniversary on this show. It's been a great experience altogether. We're continuing to evolve the show. It's just been an absolutely great step in the right direction for us. And this is our second year, of course, covering this event that occurred. So with that being said, Gavin, I'd love to dive right into it and just kind of break down at least my perspective of the whole thing. One thing I look at when it comes to a tragedy like this, of course, we all ask why. Why does it happen to good people? Things like that. Of course, there were other lives that day that, of course, aren't the main focal point that were also lost that we must honor and respect. And so one thing I do want to say that will always hold true in any event, whether it's a tragedy or not, when it comes to death, you have to live these lives for these people when they're gone. And the best way to do that is to live life as they intended to do it. And I mean, I'll say it. I'm a big LeBron fan, and obviously Gavin's a big Michael Jordan fan. But I think we can probably agree that Kobe probably had the best work ethic of those guys. And it's a close race. It really is. And this is not a day to tear down the other guys by elevating Kobe, but it's a day to acknowledge the drive and work ethic that he had. And if there's one central message that we can take away from this, it really is we got to just every day give it all you got. Whatever you do, any time you sign up to do something, give it 100%. If you can't do that, don't even bother. You just got to give everything you have, all you got, no matter what aspect of your life it is, whether it's health, fitness, schoolwork, work, whatever it may be. You just got to have that grind. You got to have that ability and determination to get stuff done. And there's tons of stories about Kobe Bryant dating back to Lower Merion High School 45 minutes from here. I have friends that went there and the sister school, Harriton, which is in the same school district. So I would say that some of the stories that we have heard are certainly great stories about Kobe Bryant and his work ethic. And I think that goes underserved a lot when you look at the accolades that he had and you take a look at all these great things that he has done in his life. And arguably, I would say that I think that it's what has to be remembered. It's insane. The 4 a.m.s, and believe me, I've been there. I've read stories about people. It's not easy what Kobe Bryant did to get to where he wants to be, the confidence that he had, the Mamba mentality, as we called it. And frankly, it's one of those things where you just have to appreciate it. And when a tragedy like that happens, and I'm sure Kobe he'd say this to himself, and I'm sure tons of people that are motivated and go through that work every single day. Steve Jobs had said this before. You got to live every day like it's your last. You got to give every single second. I don't know if anybody here scrolls through TikTok or whatever, but you kind of see that Apollo Creed quote, "There is no tomorrow," on repeat that goes through a lot of different feeds. That is how a lot of these people have run their lives, and that's how Kobe Bryant's life was ran. So even though that day my first thought wasn't, all right, well, at least he lived every day like it was his last. No, it's a tragedy, and we're all heartbroken over it, and the basketball and community and the whole world continue to mourn that. I'm not going to underserve that today. But with that being said, what I will say is this. One thing that we can all walk away from him with his confidence, the way that he carried himself, he always carried himself with the most utmost respect and dedication. And he carried himself and lived every single day like it was his last. He put in the work every day. You should be fatigued when you go to bed at night. You shouldn't question, gee, I could have done a little more today. You should get to that point in your life. This goes for anybody, honestly. I guess, Gavin, we're going to become motivational speakers pretty soon, reminiscing Kobe Bryant's great life. But he had rules, and he followed them to a T. And it shows persistence, consistency, knocking it out every day. And for me, I say this a lot too, and it's very true with how Kobe was. It's not about the days you're motivated to do it. It's about how great you can be on the days where you're not motivated. And Kobe Bryant had many of those days in his life where he was not motivated and still went out there, still got up at 4 a.m. to dribble, to shoot. All the early mornings in Staples Center, I'm sure the janitors and crew there have all tons of stories about we had to turn the lights on at 4 a.m. because Kobe wanted to come in and shoot around before the day's practice. So, I mean, it's a tragedy. Of course, Gianna and the rest of the people on board should not be forgotten in the midst of talking about Kobe Bryant's legacy. And yeah, that's kind of the surface of it. I'm sure we'll dive into deeper conversation. I'll give Gavin a chance to kind of get his opening remarks out. Of course, something we're all devastated by in the basketball community. And it's one of those events, and Gavin, I'm sure you can agree with me on this, where you remember where you were. For us, we were not alive for 9/11. I'm sure some people that watch our show were, and they remember where they were. I remember I was watching the Pro Bowl pregame show, and the news had broke. And at first, we didn't know if it was true or not. TMZ was the first to break it, and I don't want to bash TMZ, but they definitely do a little more exaggerating around the news. And of course, that's something you don't joke about. But for us, it's just one of those surreal feelings where you can't accept it. And the day rolls by, more details come out. And that night, Gavin, I remember watching. I was at my grandmother's house, and I'm watching on her little TV. We were watching the Atlanta Hawks game where Trae Young wore 8 that night, and when the game started, and this happened for the next few days. Sixers had played the next night against Golden State, and they did this. They had the shot clock violation and the backcourt violation to start the game, and I mean, you never want someone to die in a tragedy, but it is nice to see for his legacy how impactful he was on this generation, on these guys. Yesterday, the tweet surfaced from 2 years ago yesterday, which is very fitting in the story as far as LeBron James in Kobe's home city of Philadelphia, surpassing Kobe Bryant on the points scored list, and that was his last tweet was to LeBron James about continuing the legacy and continuing to move forward, continuing to bring basketball to where it is today. So, Gavin, I know that was a lot to say. I'm going to hand it off to you and give you a chance to give some thoughts on Kobe Bryant and the events surrounding the whole situation.
Well, Zach, first of all, I just want to say hopefully we get a chance before the show ends to swing on back to it because there's a lot we all had to say. But for me, this day is hard. And Zach, you're right. When you talk about you'll never forget where you were, Zach, I was right here, minding my business, playing my game. When someone told me, he said, "Did you see the news?" I was like, "What news?" And you said, "Kobe he's passed away." Now, Zach, unfortunately, because of our generation and how quick the news and things like to make jokes and stuff, I was like, that's not real. That's not real. And then when I ended up coming, as you said, Zach, as the day goes on, we hear things and the reports is true. ESPN got on it. It was all over the place. You couldn't escape. I remember Jay Williams and his emotional remarks when it first happened. I remembered everything, and when you heard, you were like, "Oh my God, this actually happened." And then there's also a moment where people forget is, well, who was on it? Well, we heard about Rick Fox, and Rick Fox's name was being thrown out. And if you remember what Shaquille O'Neal said, he said we couldn't reach Rick Fox, we couldn't do it. And then finally, Rick Fox speaks out and says, "No, I'm okay." So you're like, okay, well, who's on it? Then it comes to find out it was Gianna. That hurts because it's like when kids pass away, and there was a lot of them. I mean, I'm going to read the names off at the end of the show, but when kids pass away, it hurts, and just the whole situation is so. It's like I was watching Get Up this morning on ESPN, and Stephen A. said it's the fashion on how he went out, and I think that's the one thing me and probably many other basketball fans and Kobe fans we just can't believe that he went out really young to start off, and he went out from a tragic event that you couldn't even think that would be impossible to a guy that was a living legend. I'm talking a 5-time champion, numerous MVPs. It's like you couldn't imagine that. And I'm not. And this guy won an Oscar crying out loud, and he had a whole life more set aside basketball. It's like I wasn't. I was even more excited to see what Gianna could do because every time you would hear Kobe talk about his daughter, he was like, "She's gonna be better than me. She's gonna be better than me." And Zach, you know what team she wanted to go play for in college? She wanted to go play for UConn. They're like it was just a heartbreaking story all around. And for me, you talk about the impact that he had on many of people, whether it was doing better at your own profession, whether it was little personal goals. He impacted everyone globally. I spoke to Dom today, and he said just the impact he had around the world for everybody and how he touched a lot of people in many of ways. You can't find nobody like that. There's nobody in today's world, and I'm not questioning, anybody that that is looked at as an icon or legend. But you're talking about a guy that when you talk about Mamba mentality, you're talking about a guy that was A in the gym every day, B got knocked down numerous times, that injuries, rotator cuff, knees, ACLs, you name it, he had it. And what did he do? He kept fighting. And there was also another great point that was brought up to Kobe Bryant about Kobe Bryant this morning on ESPN was he never missed a day. And when you think of that, and why does that matter? Is you got guys like Ben Simmons and other guys just sitting out. That's not what Kobe Bryant represents. And there's a lot of people. I'm not trying to bash nobody, but I'm just being. This is who he was. The game. He slept. Everything was about the game. He outworked the next person that was next to him. You could see it in his work. It's like he might only have 5 rings, right? But he has a lot of memorable moments. If you saw my Instagram story today, I posted the Oop the Shack, the infamous Oop the Shack, where that put like the turning point in a lot of things. It's like you go to his 81-point performance, the 61 at the Garden, the 60 on his way out. Kobe on a torn rotator cuff finished the game with his left hand. You are not going to see that type of effort from somebody in today's game. You're not going to see it. It's unmatched. You touched a lot of people. Zach, I hope we can come back to the end of the show. I still got a lot to say, but Zach, it hurts. It hurts. I feel like as a world, as an NBA fans, as everybody, as a fan that loved Kobe Bryant or the NBA, this is a day where I feel we all are black and gold fans. Or excuse me, purple and gold, not black and gold. It's Steelers. I don't know why I'm thinking about them. Purple and gold fans, Zach, and it's rightfully so. And we're going to continue to rally around this man. We're going to continue to remember him and the way he should be remembered. And we're going to remember everybody else. Zach, I hope we can come back to it because I do got some words for everybody else that was involved.
Yeah, and I'm going to add this too, something that really probably hasn't been thought about at all in this whole process, and that's comfortability. And so back to the motivational pep talk for a minute. Apologies for that. Maybe we'll start a motivational show or whatever in the future, something to look at, but not to get off topic.
Motivation, yeah.
A lot of stories that you hear about in the NBA, they're from uncomfortable situations. For example, Jimmy Butler, mom kicked him out when he was young. Grew up on the streets pretty much. A lot of guys grew up in poor areas where basketball really was all they had. And when you're uncomfortable, that's when you grow. Kobe, I'm not 100% up to date on his background, but I do know this. He was from Lower Merion, which, Gavin, we know it's definitely a better area
It's close.
than some of these kids grew up in that went on to be in the NBA. He definitely was in a much more comfortable situation. He had a good relationship, good home life. He had a lot of situations where he could have been comfortable, but he chose not to be. He chose to develop the best work ethic possible. Gavin, there's a player on the Sixers, number 25, who's very comfortable with his money situation and has chosen to not show up to work and do his job. There's guys like Jimmy Butler who were in very uncomfortable situations. LeBron James, who when he signed his first shoe contract, he got his mom the house and they were able to have a more comfortable life. A lot of players out there had those backgrounds, and Kobe Bryant wasn't necessarily one of those guys. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing necessarily. I think it's always about what you're made of. But what I respect the most out of him is he didn't necessarily come from the worst of circumstances, but he was still able to put in that work, put in that drive every day. And as we talk about with the Eagles, rent is due every day. And that's certainly something that was with Kobe Bryant. Did not miss a day. One thing, Gavin, I don't think you mentioned it, was his free throws on the ruptured Achilles as well. That's certainly just you won't see this in the NBA today. You won't. As much as Jimmy Butler's got one of those mentalities, and Giannis and some of these other guys, and Klay Thompson a few years ago in 20 ACL, of course, put up some free throws, but you just won't see. You just don't. He was just cut from a different type of cloth. He was just one of those guys who was able to go out there with that drive every single day. Didn't take nights off. Didn't load manage. The modern NBA has definitely gotten softer. There's no doubt about that.
By far.
And it's not to discredit some of these guys nowadays, but we see it, and I see it in athletics all the time. Everybody's sitting there with the massage gun and the ice bath and all that stuff. And listen, not to say that I'm not dissing any of that stuff. Certainly it helps with recovery, and recovery is important. But Kobe Bryant, he just didn't care. He wanted to win.
No days off, Zach. No days off.
That's what he cared about. He cared about winning. And Gavin, you said only 5 rings. I mean, that's a lot more than most guys are going to ever get. It's not the golden number 6 that MJ has. It's certainly more than LeBron has.
But Zach, it's how you got the 5 rings. That's what I'm thinking about. It's how you got them.
It's at Tim Duncan's 5-ring level. I mean, Kobe Bryant did it with Shaq, did it with Pau Gasol, 2 different time periods where they were able to get it done. Very impressive career for him. But for me, it's just that drive, man. That go get it attitude. That rent is due every single day attitude. I aspire to do that every day. We work, or I hope everybody would want to put in the work to get to that level. It's just something you shouldn't be envious of it. You shouldn't sit back and say, man, I wish I had that. I think it's just something you should look back and say, that's impressive, and all the respect and all the power to him for what he's done.
Zach, I'll end it like this before we go talk about sports. Remember my senior quote?
You'll have to remind me.
I said in my senior quote by Kobe Bryant, I said, I can't relate to lazy people. We don't speak the same language. I don't understand you. I don't want to understand you. And what you were just talking about is exactly what you put into words. Lazy people and him do not speak the same language. And that goes to show you the difference in what Kobe Bryant had between the average person or the average NBA player, to be exact. From being in the gym from sunrise to sunset, Zach, he was so dedicated to his work that he had to pivot and make a way to be there for his family too, and be there at work at the same time too. It's a shame that he was gone at the age of 41, Zach. 41.
And one thing too, I mean, this certainly hurts as equally as much, if not more, is that we were getting to see a softer side of Kobe Bryant in the last few years. Trash talking in his native language, being at games with LeBron there. We got to see him as a parent, and that was cut short. It was 5 years, not even 4. He retired in 2016, and he had a lot ahead of him. He was a big investor in the I forget the name of the electrolyte company, but very popular sports drink.
Body Armor.
Big investor in that. Was starting to work. Like Shaq's got a venture capital firm, something of course I'm very interested in, and he was really starting to build that foundation from another perspective. And Yeah, it's just tragic that we're
Zach, I
unable to
was
see.
Zach, I was on belief that a few years from now, when Kobe was in his late 50s, that he would be owner of the Lakers. That's where I was going to be heading towards. I mean, when you think of the
I
Lakers, you
agree. I
think
mean,
of
MJ owns
yeah.
the Hornets. A lot of guys end up working their way up into that executive role. Jerry West, of course, really ran the West for so long as a player and as a GM.
But Zach, I just think that when we talk about Kobe Bryant, you talk about a guy that did already accomplish so much, but was cut so short. It was cut so short.
Unfinished business. That's the best way to put it. Gavin, is there anything else? I know you wanted to read off some of the names of some of the people on that flight, and if there is anything else, we can certainly cover it. Anyone else who has anything they want to say in the comments, whether it's Kobe's, your favorite memory of Kobe Bryant. Mine's probably going to be the 60-point finale for him. Gavin, you can read that, and then of course read off some of the names. If anyone else has anything else that they want us to read off, or anything else about Kobe Bryant that we can certainly also read off, feel free to leave it in the comments.
Zach, I think my favorite moment was his first championship. Just the excitement he had with him and Shaq, and how they finally were able to coexist and become together, and the dominance they had for the next couple years. And it's like just some of the names: John Altobelli, Kerry Altobelli, Alyssa Altobelli, Sarah Peyton Chester, Christina Mauser, Ara Zoban. I've been practicing on names. Like I couldn't get that one, but those are some of the names and lives that were lost that day, and it's just tragic. It's like I can't imagine just being in a helicopter and just knowing that there's nothing you could do. That's a scary thought, and all those families left wide open now with a lot of holes to fill, and I was like, I don't think you'll ever be able to recover from such a loss like that for everyone involved. Not just the world as knowing as Kobe and Gigi, but this is for everybody, close friends or families, and anyone that knew them personally. I mean, it's like, and real quick too, Kobe was one of those people that you felt like like you knew him as a family member. When it hurt, when you heard the news that Kobe was going, it hurt like a family member. Like it hurt like you knew him personally. It hurt like
I mean, for
it
us,
just
we can relate to it from. I mean, I pass Lower Merion High School often, and a big Philly fan. Of course, the video of him celebrating with his kids when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. The video Vanessa posted on, I think, Twitter. It's just a lot
yeah,
of it's a lot of common connections for us, especially people in the Philadelphia area, and even I imagine across the country. That's just how big of an impact he had on people.
just gone too soon. Everybody was going too soon.
Well, listen, everyone. I want to thank everybody for listening in on that. Of course, throughout the show, we'll continue to remember the late great Kobe Bryant and those also that were affected in that tragedy. With that being said, we will be breaking down what happened this weekend in the playoffs.
Best weekend.
Was this
Best
the most
weekend.
exciting weekend in
Best
football
weekend ever.
history? Stay tuned.
We are now offering a new product on our Teespring. Wear a mask in public. We are now supporting a custom designed mask with our logo on it. Purchase it today, and 10% goes to a foundation of our viewers' choice. It offers a full nose and mouth coverage, single-sided print, includes 2 2-inch elastic ear loops, non-medical grade product, and finally, $1 from every mask sale is donated to a nonprofit to feed children in need. Enjoy today's episode.
Back here on the More Than Philly Sports Network, just spent the last 20 or so minutes honoring the late great Kobe Bryant, breaking down some stories that we've enjoyed from him throughout the years. 41 years old 2 years ago to the date. Just unfortunate and tragic. We'll continue to cover that throughout the show. But Gavin, let's get into it because this was a weekend for the history books. I will have my joyous celebration about Green Bay here in just a few minutes. But Gavin, overall, we'll go game by game with this. But just what's your reaction from the weekend as a whole?
Zach, when you're talking about an exciting weekend for playoff football, you could not written it up any better. From the first game to the last game, Zach, talking about Tennessee and how both number ones were down on the same day. Zach, on the same day, both number ones were down. I know we're going to break it down even more. My mom in the comments has had that Tom Brady's out, so am I, Zach. And then, Zach, that last game, oh my gosh. I don't want to say no more. I can't wait to break that game down because I got so many thoughts. But great weekend overall.
Yeah, I have one thought, and I don't want to stir up the pot on this subject, but every quarterback this weekend, gunslinger, makes you question if Jalen Hurts can be the guy. We'll give him another year. I don't want to bring it up. I don't want to.
Don't call Ryan Tannehill a gunslinger for crying out loud. Don't. Oh yeah, he's a
He's got
gunslinger.
a good
The
arm.
other team.
But my point is that this is the modern NFL, Gavin. It's the mobile quarterback who can throw the ball downfield. Look, there's no quarterback in this draft that impresses me. I'm fine having Jalen Hurts for another year, but some food for thought on that. But let's get into it. Bengals and Titans, Gavin. I never would have thought in a million years. How about the turnaround for the Bengals this season? Everyone making fun of them for drafting Jamar Chase over Penny Sewell. Ended up paying off pretty well. The confidence of their rookie kicker, McPherson, gets the job done. Joe Burrow, 348 yards in the air. Jamar Chase, 109 yards catching it. Ryan Tannehill, 3 interceptions. Derrick Henry, 20 carries for 62 yards, 3.1. This is his second year in a row that he's just simply run out of gas in the playoffs. Of course, coming off an injury, so definitely going to be a difference maker for them. But, yeah, just a tough blow for the Titans. But the Bengals, I think, should be talked about as how good they've been this year. And I think that their head coach, Zach Taylor, should get some votes for Coach of the Year because they were on the verge of firing him last year, Gavin, and the Bengals held on to him for another year and paying dividends.
Well, Zach, first of all, this is why I won't give Zach Taylor Coach of the Year just yet because your quarterback's getting killed still. I mean, Zach, come on, 9 sacks. Now, let me just say something. I mean, everybody but the offensive line showed up for Joe Burrow in that game. How do you can't block a single person? I'm surprised Joe Burrow was still 20 of 37 for 300 plus yards. He didn't have a touchdown through the air. He had an interception. But Zach, you gotta protect Joe Burrow. You gotta protect him at all points and cost of the game. Now let's break this game down. Zach, Ryan Tannehill is actually awful. They should never paid him. You talked about not paying running backs, and what was my first response to you after that game? What was the first? I said, Zach, it wasn't the running backs that did it. It was Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill had 3 interceptions. You're not going to win a game off 3 interceptions. And then Zach, Mike Vrabel actually made the stupidest move ever. And this is going to benefit you. Devontae Foreman, who was doing a fantastic job, 4 rushing attempts to 66 yards, 16.5 yards per average. Longest was 45 yards, and he didn't see the ball for the rest of the game. It took Derrick Henry 20 attempts to get 62 yards, and he didn't pass Devontae Foreman. That is terrible on Vrabel's part, and I also think that's also terrible for Tennessee Titans to let Derrick Henry come back. He was running with, what was it, metal plates in his foot? Mm-hmm. Zach, why even come back for it? Now, another thing too, A.J. Brown showed up. Julio Jones, pedestrian, but that's been the whole entire year. Zach, this game has really fallen down on the coaching, on not getting the running back that was hot involved, and Ryan Tannehill being absolute garbage. And on the offensive side of the Bengals, Zach, I mean, just protect Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase had, 5 catches, 109 yards. T. Higgins, who they drafted last year, 96 yards. Zach, this is actually one of the scariest offenses if they can get an offensive line. If they can get an offensive line that can actually protect Joe Burrow, I don't know. Everyone wants to talk about Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, but Joe Burrow, if he could continue to improve, they can get him help. And I think they need to go this offseason, go spend money on offensive linemen. I don't know who's out there. If they win the Super Bowl, Zach, or win the championship game and go to the Super Bowl with that offensive line, he's Coach of the Year. But as of right now, it's hard to say Coach of the Year because there's a couple other candidates I got to put out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. But I think overall the Jamar Chase pick was the better pick short term. I don't know how it's going to be long term, but we'll see. And I think that there's no doubt this offseason they either have to trade for an offensive lineman or they'll have to draft one or move up in the draft to get one. With that being said, we'll go over to the other game on Saturday. The San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. The Packers went down the field, scored a touchdown on the first drive of the game. It looked like they were going to have this game pretty good. Garoppolo was 11 of 19, 131 yards and a pick. Rodgers 20 of 29, 225 yards. I have no answers. 10 points, number 1 seed. Come on, man. Aaron Rodgers, all the chirping he did in the offseason, got blown out by New Orleans week 1. Had the immunization comments that got him in a lot of trouble. And now this week, he'll be most likely MVP this year, but once again, coming up small in the playoffs.
Zach, I appreciate you being nice to me because I really thought you were going to get on here and give me the whole Aaron Rodgers is this, that, and the third, and all this. I appreciate it. I appreciate you sparing my ears for the day. I appreciate it. But he did not perform. Zach, I don't get it. You're playing a West Coast team that was practicing in San Francisco. They cannot mimic the cold that you guys play in. It's called the frozen tundra for real. That's actually called home field. Zach, you and I both know when it gets cold outside, below freezing, the football feels like a rock and every hit hurts. That's what makes Buffalo a scary place to play, and that's what makes Green Bay, not now, a scary place to play because it gets sub-zero. Zach, this is your element. The San Francisco 49ers woke up and chose violence against Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. Go back to the draft where Aaron Rodgers was drafted. And you remember the words were, I wish the San Francisco 49ers drafted me or they're going to make a big mistake. Every time they go against you in the playoffs, Zach, they make you eat your words.
0-4 against San Francisco.
0-4, and you don't have a touchdown pass either. I mean, Zach, the San Francisco 49ers are a scary team. They play physical. They play with the run. Kyle Shanahan, the best offensive mind in the game. Jimmy Garoppolo, you know how I feel about Jimmy Garoppolo, question mark. The Green Bay Packers are not ready, and they're expelling themselves. And Zach, that's why they're home this weekend coming up. That's why they're at home. They're home, and San Francisco is not. But I will say this: Deebo Samuel, if he is not good to go this weekend, they're done. Because Deebo Samuel's all they got. And special teams, Zach, matters a lot. Matters a lot.
That it does, the blocked field goal and the blocked punt. Look, you can complain about the special teams for Green Bay as much as you want. Aaron Rodgers scored 10 points. I think that's just monumentally awful. There's no excuse for it. And Gavin, you said, yeah, I'm pretty fortunate for not tearing into you too much. I'll keep it short and sweet. I think Aaron Rodgers is a very good regular season quarterback, but he's never stepped up in the postseason. It's always somebody else. Oh, his defense is terrible. Really, his defense was terrible when he scored 9 points against San Fran a few years ago. Defense was terrible last year against the Buccaneers. I get that, but Aaron Rodgers, when it was a one-score game and it was the final drive, he's 0 for 8 between the Buccaneers game last year and the 49ers game this year. Wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, whether it's Denver, Pittsburgh, home as a retirement, Miami maybe, I don't know where else he'd go, Philly, he's not going to win the Super Bowl. He doesn't have it. I mean, he doesn't have that ability. He has one ring to his name. That's embarrassing, Gavin. One ring.
Zach,
Big Ben's got 2 rings. Yeah. Nick Foles has a ring. Tom Brady's got 7. Aaron Rodgers has 1.
Zach, I'll say this. I have a Green Bay Packers family member that comes over my house pretty often. And I can't find him. Now, Zach, the Green Bay Packers had the most NFC Championships appearance since 2015, 2014-ish, right?
Yeah.
You can't win one. And they lose in dramatic fashion, too. Whether it's the Seattle Seahawks fumble onside kick recovery that your own Packers play couldn't get. Whether it's losing to Atlanta, whether it's last year.
Being blown out by Atlanta.
Whatever it is that keeps you guys from going to the next level, it happens. It happens. And I don't feel bad. Zach, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and the Aaron Rodgers saga, he is going to go down one of the all-time greatest quarterbacks, not ever. There's no debate. It's Tom Brady, and that's it. I've said it. I said it now. I'll leave it out there.
He's behind Peyton. He's above Breeze. Probably one of the San Fran guys you can probably put up there. Montana's probably ahead of him. Young's probably behind him. But I mean, he's top 5. He's 4 probably or 3. He shrinks in these big games.
So let me ask you this question.
That's a pattern. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this question, Zach. Aaron Rodgers said on Pat McAfee's show, Zach, I love me some Pat McAfee. If One, Aaron Rodgers said he's not going to draw this out due to Devontae Adams' situation and a couple other guys because they want to play with him most likely, or it'll help them figure out what they want to do. Where do you think is the best place for a so-called Aaron Rodgers? And if you are that team, are you going for it?
It's Pittsburgh. People say Denver because they like the offensive weapons, but Denver from the organization down is a mess. They're not ready to win a ring. I think Pittsburgh is ready. They have a defense that is deteriorating, but they are still good. Juju Smith-Schuster is a good number 2 if you bring Devontae Adams with you. Chase Claypool, as much as he gets some criticism, he's a good wide receiver. Deontay Johnson's a good wide receiver. They just got Najee Harris this year. Pat Freiermuth is there now. I'm all for Aaron Rodgers going to Pittsburgh. That's his best fit, in my opinion.
I'm all for Aaron Rodgers going to Pittsburgh as well because of my time with Zach. I'm going to throw this wild card out here. I'm going to throw something that's no one's talked about. What if somehow he gets his way to the Colts? And you get behind the offensive line, you get Jonathan Taylor, you bring Devontae Adams with you, with Michael Pittman, that can be a nice number 2. You go out and maybe go get yourself another piece. You can't ask for anything better than that. You don't have to deal with anyone in the division other than Ryan Tannehill, who's a thumbs down in my opinion. The Jacksonville Jaguars are restart. We still don't know the situation with Deshaun Watson. The Giants owner had a pretty big comment on him today. I think if you are the Indianapolis Colts and you're not excited or not happy with how your season ended, because Zach, no one should be if you're a Colts fan, and if you don't like what Carson Wentz produced, I'll just say go ahead and go get it. Indiana's in that place where you're going to plug in and win now almost. Zach, they have one of the best offensive lines in the league, arguably right behind Tampa. The defense is a bend but don't break. They came along at the end of the year. Your running back is top 5. We don't know how much longer that you would like to point out he has left. You bring Devontae Adams. You can maybe get another guy as well. You don't have picks though. So if Aaron Rodgers walks free as a free agent or however it's going to go down, Zach, I don't know. Indiana should be the first team on that's on there, along with Pittsburgh as well.
Yeah, Indiana's a good fit. I'm not sure how the Carson Wentz situation stands. Obviously, the comments from the last year and this year, they sound a lot less confident with Wentz. The question is, are they going to cut him and suck up the dead cap, or will he be traded? He could be traded to Green Bay. That could be a destination for him that they could. He's a similar arm, not much more. His physicality is there. Of course, he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to be an NFL quarterback. He really kind of deteriorated himself late in the year like he did last year with Philly. But I will say this too, one more wild card team, Tampa. If Tom Brady retires, which means he takes Gronk with him, I think Aaron Rodgers would not be opposed to looking at Tampa. As far as the warm weather, same reason Tom Brady went there. The weapons are there, obviously. They can win. They have won. Tampa or even New Orleans, because Tom Brady was on the verge of going to New Orleans too if Drew Brees had retired. I'm not sure if you knew that report, but that's where he was leaning towards before going to Tampa. But yeah, there's a couple teams that will answer the call when one of the best quarterbacks is coming to town. So I think Tampa will be cool. I think Tampa will be a great comparison to him and Brady. We can see if he can win with Tampa.
Yeah, but how would the legacy be if he goes and follows Tom Brady? That's
cool.
my thinking. It's the legacy part.
I think it'd be cool. I don't think it would matter too much.
And I mean, it's like 28 free agents this year, and New Orleans has no money. If your New Orleans has no money and 20 free agents with Tampa,
the teams that are best found. I'm gonna look at the cap as I do often.
If you want me to do a wild card,
Indy's got really good cap situation, even if they cut Carson Wentz. And then I'll check Pittsburgh's situation. Let me find it. Cap space. Here we go. Overthecap.com, brought to you by nobody, because we're not sponsored. But big fan of this site. They give you a really good look as far as the cap situation. As Gavin mentioned, the Saints are in a terrible situation right now. Negative.
They're going to have to sell people.
They're very much over the cap by a lot. But the Buccaneers, almost $20 million, Gavin. They have a lot of free agents they got to re-sign. But Colts, $41 million to spend this offseason. And let's see where Pittsburgh is. Steelers, $34 million. So Colts and Steelers right next to each other. So those are definitely two of the top destinations he'd probably go to. Again, I'm not a fan of him going to Denver. They do have $42 million to spend, which is more than both those teams, all three of them in a row, descending from the Broncos to the Colts to the Steelers. So we'll see where the Aaron Rodgers saga continues to be. I think it'll be a cool story, but yeah, interesting.
And if Zach, if you want to throw a long shot, like a really, really, really long shot, maybe San Francisco gets bold and picks them up and they ride up into the sunset. But after that game, I don't think so. I've also heard the Eagles should package a pick or two and send Jalen Hurts and get Aaron Rodgers back and with Devontae Adams. I heard it all, and no one knows. It's like all I know is I'm just gonna kick back and watch. But Indiana and Pittsburgh, I like those two.
We'll see. We will see where this plays out. So that covers that game. Got a little sidetracked with the Aaron Rodgers saga, but that's always a fun conversation. The next game, Rams Buccaneers. That could have been Tom Brady's last game, and it was pretty impressive. If anything, his team climbed back late in that game, banged up this year. Super Bowl hangover, just same with the Eagles, got banged up this year. At some point, you just run out of magic, and that happened here. And the Rams, late in the game, Matt Stafford magic, good for him to get a second playoff win to prove that he can be clutch. So the LA Rams will be hosting the NFC Championship after taking down the defending Tampa Bay Buccaneers not once this year, but twice.
Are you ready? I mean, it's like I listen to ESPN every day, and they're talking about how this could be Tom Brady's last game. Tom Brady said he says, but Tom Brady says this, Tom Brady says that. Like Tom Brady is 44 years old. If he comes out next year, he'll be 45. Always playing in NFL. Pass rushers are getting bigger and they're getting faster. Tom Brady said it that his wife hates him taking hits. Tom Brady, if I'm you, there's nothing else for you to prove. You're always the greatest of all time. You're already going down as first ballot Hall of Fame as soon as you're eligible to go. Zach, don't give me sort of Hall of Fame and everything else too. But just ride off in the sunset while you're in peace before Father Time actually catches up to you and your deep ball doesn't work and you can't take a hit. That's my thinking. And Zach, to touch on the LA Rams, 4 fumbles almost costed you a game. You had to clean it up, more discipline. The discipline act on taking care of the football. And Zach, Matthew Stafford is going to show us why it was Detroit, not him. I mean, him and Cooper Kupp found a great bond. OBJ, I mean, it was OBJ in Cleveland, right? It was his fault, totally, 100%.
Oh, yeah. That's why he's playing so well now for LA.
But Zach, this is the Rams' year to do it. This is the Rams' year to do it. You have the great defense. You have the great offense that sometimes looks stagnant. As long as Matthew Stafford of the last month of December doesn't show up, you'll be just fine, Rams fans.
Yeah, I agree. The problem is, again, I don't trust either NFC team. They both can fold very quickly. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes between San Fran and LA in the NFC Championship game. But I've seen LA show its full. A lot of games this year that they lost, Matt Stafford looked like a deer in headlights. And that's my worry. So we'll see where that takes us. But both teams are very vulnerable. Now let's talk about the exciting game of the weekend, as is the first
game of the decade. Call it what it is.
It's up there. It's up there with the Chiefs-Rams game a few years ago. Josh Allen, 27-37, 329 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and didn't win. Patrick Mahomes, 378, 3 TDs. Tyreek Hill, 150 yards receiving. Over 900 yards in this game total. Stats, I mean, 73 plays to 63. 4 sacks allowed total, 6 total punts. Only 4 penalties. 25 yards of penalties in this game. No turnovers. I'm not going to debate the overtime rule. I think we're all in agreement. I personally think we should change it to college overtime rules, at least for the postseason, because in the postseason, the stats should be much more unfair than they do in the regular season. The regular season is actually pretty balanced with that stuff. But look, we had this conversation after the Chiefs lost to the Patriots a few years ago. The expression, what goes around comes around. It went around for Kansas City. It came back around for them, and they benefited this time. It's unfortunate. It is the rule. I'm in favor of changing it, but the Chiefs made an attempt to change it, and it was shut down. So I have no further comments on that. But the Bills are scary, and they're going to be scary for a very long time as long as they take care of their quarterback and make sure to keep that team healthy. And Sean McDermott continues to do a great job coaching. But Mahomes and Chiefs are going to look to go back to their 3rd straight Super Bowl, 4th straight AFC Championship game, which is pretty impressive.
Zach, when you talk about the overtime rule, I don't disagree with you. I think when it comes to playoffs, I feel like there should be at least a chance for the opposing offense to get the ball. But here's where I also disagree with you too. Zach, the number 1 defense in the NFL was on the field last Sunday. They couldn't stop They couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes for 13 seconds. Now, Dallas, take notes because this is how you do it. Yes, they had 2 timeouts, but it was being ready for the moment. You saw guys being ready to call timeouts as soon as Travis Kelce caught the ball. But go back to that kickoff. Why are you kicking to the Chiefs with a chance for them not to return it? You should squib it, run time off the clock. You're going to get a little bit of return, but before they get down the ball, that takes 2 to 2.5 seconds off the clock, maybe even 3.
At least.
At least.
You're
Now,
probably down to 10, 9 seconds at that point.
it's like I don't feel bad that the Bills lost. I mean, I feel bad because Josh Allen put everything he had out there in that game. But that defense, when you needed to stop, you just couldn't get it. You just couldn't get it, especially in 13 seconds. Zach, you needed 1 incompletion or 1 batted down. You needed something that ruined their momentum. And what happened? You let up 2 straight plays. 2 straight plays. I don't feel bad. I really don't feel bad. And Zach, going into overtime, Pat Mahomes rounded up the troops. Mecole Hardman, Travis Kelce ended just like that. I mean, it's a shame the game ended. It's a shame Josh Allen, came up short again. But your coach didn't do simple math. It's like our analytics teacher in high school would be fuming from his ears. Steam will be coming out of his ears and his eyes will be bloodshot red because that's how idiotic Sean McDermott was on that kickoff. Squib it. The greatest quarterback in the game right now, Zach, nothing to take away from Tom Brady or anybody else. The most dynamic offense in the league got the ball back and was able to score a field goal, and they were able to win it in a walk-off fashion. I don't feel bad. I do agree that the Bills offense should have had a chance, but if you can't get a stop in your number 1 pass defense and the number 1 defense in the NFL, am I really supposed to feel bad for you?
It's a team sport. It's not a quarterback sport. It's a quarterback-driven league, and that was obvious this weekend. But it's still a team sport. Things have to be done. But Josh Allen, he did all he could. There's nothing more he could have done in that game. There just isn't. It's just unfortunate how it went. But the Chiefs, a team that we on this show, and I said, hold on, let's not panic yet. But when that close game to the Eagles, that defense was bad, and we all panicked. They're hosting the AFC Championship game like nothing. They didn't miss a beat, Gavin. So let's get into the predictions now. We'll go back to the NFC. 49ers, Rams in LA. The 49ers are 8-0 in their last 8 appearances against each other.
I'm going with the Rams, Zach. Lightning does strike 3 times. And the reason why I know that is because go to last year. Remember when the Saints swept Tom Brady in the regular season and they meet up in the divisional round? What happened? Oh, yeah, Tom Brady got his comeuppance and they go on to win the Super Bowl. Zach, they're not, especially in the championship game. I think at some point that physicality of the San Francisco 49ers won't be able to work because Trent Williams is banged up, Debo is banged up, and I think George Kittle is banged up as well. And Jimmy Garoppolo is not that type of guy that's going to go out and win you a game with his arm. You're going to need a lot of run plays, and the Rams are having it. Zach, give me the Rams by a close game.
That Niners defense is good, but there's just nothing on that offense that gives me reason to believe that they will win the game. I'll agree with you. I'll take the Rams in a low-scoring game. Give me 16-13 Rams game-winning field goal. It's going to be a low-scoring game. It's going to be ugly. I expect 2 to 3 turnovers from Matt Stafford, or he lights it up and they win that game pretty easily. But I'll take LA as well, which means for the second year in a row, the home team or the home stadium will have a representative in it from the team that plays there. In this case, will be the Rams. Last year, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Raymond James. So pretty cool. 2 years in a row. First time it ever happened last year, and we have a chance to have 2 years in a row. Maybe they'll put the games in Dallas from now on so that they know for sure that nobody will be playing a home game there for the Super Bowl.
We just lost some viewers on that one.
I think we gained some.
Might have.
But no, in all seriousness, yes, I'll take LA. I agree with you. The first game of the day at 3 o'clock, Bengals, Chiefs. Gavin, who are you taking?
Zach, you go back to what happened in Cincinnati. You saw how that game, the Chiefs were up big, and the Bengals just kind of came back and stole the game from them. I think the narrative of the underdog will finally really bite the Joe Burrow. I don't see them. I mean, Zach, there's a chance. I'm going with the Chiefs. Don't bet against Pat Mahomes. They found their stride. They're back, ladies and gentlemen.
I have to agree again. I wish I could disagree, but I think It's not that the lights won't be too bright for Joe Burrow. I don't think that's really an issue, but that O-line is not great. Pass rush for the Chiefs has gotten stronger, and he's had a lot of momentum. That Titans game was very close and was not great offensively. Chiefs were flawless offensively, and their defense will be much better against a team that has less experience. They're young guys. They're going to be a great team in the future, but
If Tyrann Matthew can come back, though, that's the big question.
And can he come back? And that's going to be a big question mark because when he went out, that defense really started to struggle, and he's really been the guy holding down the fort. He was hurt early in the year too. Remember that when their defense was struggling. So that would look like to be a Rams Chiefs Super Bowl. Gavin, we remember that Monday night game a few years ago in LA. Possibly could get something similar to that. So we'll see how that goes. But with that being said, we are going to transition briefly to the NBA and MLB. We're going to start with the Hall of Fame because Gavin has a few comments he wants to make. Speaking of San Francisco.
Yeah.
Would you like to know how you can support the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show? If so, head down to the comments on our YouTube channel. You will see 2 links there. The first is our Teespring, where you can see a wide variety of apparel products, including our signature product, the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show sweatshirts, offered in a variety of different colors, including gray, navy blue, and more. Finally, we have our Patreon page, where you can become a monthly donation member. 10% of all donations go towards an organization of our viewers' choice. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you can't donate, that's okay, because you can always share this.
All right, Hall of Fame, David Ortiz is officially entering the Hall of Fame. Notable names, Kurt Schilling, Barry Bonds. I'll throw Ryan Howard in there as well. There's 2 other notables. I apologize. I'm not able to remember that are now no longer going to be on the ballot for the Hall of Fame, therefore essentially locking them out of being in the Hall of Fame. Home run leader, among other stats, of course, the steroid scandal, but the question is the relativity. Who else has been in the Hall of Fame that has been involved in steroids? How much home runs were pre-steroid era? There's a lot of stuff there. So, Gavin, the floor is yours.
Zach, real quick, to refresh your memory, it was Roger Clemens and Sammy Sosa. They're done for. Okay, now we're in a new era, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, I don't want to take away anything from David Ortiz. Zach, I love Big Papi. I'm happy for him, but I'm also upset too because Barry Bonds has been trying for 10 years. Zach, this is his last chance to get in. He was so close. He was. I think he was 66 out of 75. He was so close. He needed a couple more. Zach. David Ortiz got on his first try. Now everybody wants to go back to the 2009, 2010 little scandal David Ortiz had, whatever it was. I don't care. Zach, it's a shame Barry Bonds is not being celebrated in Cooperstown. Have your opinions about it however you want. We're in a new era, Zach, where all the voters now, I'm Zach, I'm one of the spirit that lives in the moment. Barry Bonds was a Hall of Fame before the juicing, right? Before all the problems that kept him out of the Hall of Fame. Why can't we enjoy the moment? So what? All right, fine. You don't want to count the home run total? Fine. Hank Aaron will forever be the guy that has a home run total. 500 home runs means nothing because of Barry Bonds now. Fine. Have it that way. But, I mean, Zach, going over his numbers, how do you keep this man out of Cooperstown? He has, what is this? He has 2,935 hits, almost 2,000 RBIs. He is 4 RBIs off of 2,000. Zach, he played from 1986 to 2007. And before the juicing scandal, he was a Hall of Famer. I don't get how he gets kept out. And Roger Clemens. And here's my problem with Roger Clemens. No one was questioning you. Zach, do you remember on Capitol Hill when everybody was getting questioned and Roger Clemens basically said, I dare them to basically try me? So what did the Capitol Hill do? They're like, okay, let's do it. And what is the first thing you say? I plead the, I'm not going, I didn't. You idiot. No one was worried about what you were doing. Zach, for people who don't know who Roger Clemens, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, has a lot of accolades to his name and everything else. And Zach, he was really dominant with movement and power. No one was bothered by you. No one cared what you were doing. You talked yourself out of that. And Zach, Sammy Sosa, I mean, Barry Bonds come out and admitted that he did it right. He came out and admitted it, right? Mark McGwire came out and admitted it. Sammy Sosa can't go back to Wrigley Field because he refused to admit that he did it or not. That's the kid. And Sammy Sosa got little to no votes, and the reason I'm laughing is because, fine, don't go in the Hall of Fame. You can't admit those guys at least admitted. Well, Barry Bonds at least, and Barry Bonds has Hall of Fame numbers. Him and Roger Clemens had Hall of Fame numbers before that. And here's another thing too. We're at the era now where us, Zach, me and you, who were not alive for this, we were little toddlers while this scandal was going on. Zach, I think around 2003. That's when I was born. Zach, you were 2002, correct?
Earlier 3.
Earlier 3, and I was late 3. Okay, my bad. Now, we don't care. We just see the moment. We see Barry Bonds with the home run and the race and celebration. Zach, that's the things we remember. We don't care about the juicing. Yeah, it sucked. It's bad for baseball. It was bad for baseball, but damn, it made the game entertaining. When I go back to look at Barry Bonds, it made the game entertaining. I just don't see how you keep this man out of Cooperstown because of that. And I think it's a shame. And Zach, I'll say this, and I told my one friend this. When it comes to Barry Bonds and as you get in the Hall of Fame, because like there's a chance, but it's another way. I forget how it's done. How do you get yourself in the Hall of Fame? It's gonna be one of those things where Barry Bonds is long gone, unfortunately deceased. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not wishing this on him, but this is why I'm thinking it's going to happen. He's gonna be long gone. He's gonna be deceased, and then they're gonna let him into Cooperstown because he won't be able to celebrate. He won't be able to celebrate his career. Zach, am I wrong for saying that? Am I wrong for thinking that's how it's going to be? And I hope, and Zach, Alex Rodriguez, first time on the ballot, got 34%. So let's not cheat him out of the Hall of Fame either.
Well, I mean, that was what I was going to say. If Alex Rodriguez gets in, it's pretty hypocritical.
Pete Rose deserves to be in. There's so many guys to be stood. Zach, if you're not going to put Barry Bonds in, I'm pretty sure there's other guys in the Hall of Fame that did something like this.
Oh, yeah, and there's guys that have done worse things than Pete Rose did, which was betting on baseball at the time. So, bottom line is it's a tough scenario. We'll keep an eye on it. Of course, David Ortiz, congratulations to him. But there's a lot of good guys in there that were left out. I will say this, though. It is very hard to get into Cooperstown. It is a lot easier to get into Canton. I will leave it at that for our fans out there that are big football fans that aren't big baseball fans. Being in the MLB Hall of Fame was a huge, huge deal. And Gavin, I don't know if you had a chance to go there. Maybe it's another field trip we should make.
I've not gotten it. Can't.
When we go to Wall Street, that's another stop we'll make. We'll go
We'll be there.
Work our way south. Cooperstown's a phenomenal experience as a whole. Roy Halladay's jersey from the Perfect Games in there. Eric Bruntlund's triple play. Of course, as a Philly fan, that's some of the things I focus on. Big recommendation for everybody to go up there. Guys like Mike Schmidt in there, of course, lefty. But yes, I think Barry Bonds in this scenario, I don't know how a guy that led in the most exciting category of home runs is not in the Hall of Fame. And I understand the whole controversy around it. I'm well versed on it, but Alex Rodriguez.
Like even if you wanted to hold against him earlier in the Hall of Fame voting, I understand.
10 years later.
10 years later, come on, man. It's like I'll put this out here. I'm gonna start this campaign. Brian Howard and Jimmy Rollins need to be in the Hall of Fame.
Rollins is on the ballot still. Howard was snubbed this year as well. We'll see where it goes. We will. We're getting to that point where some of those 2008 Phillies are starting to get on there. So yeah, we'll continue to keep.
I don't like how this is done either. I feel like if it's that hard to get it, I feel like fans should have at least one vote where fans vote. I mean, it's like I guess it's the Barry Bonds fan of me trying to get him in the Hall of Fame. I guess it doesn't matter what I want, but I don't know. I think the voting system needs to be refixed or reconfigured because the NFL.
I think it's just crazy. I'm just looking back for Roy Halladay when he was inducted in 2019. Mariano Rivera, Mike Mussina, Edgar Martinez, Harold Baines, and Lee Smith. This year there was one guy. All those names and just one guy made it in.
That's my problem.
I think it's time to put some younger folks in the committee for Hall of Fame voting because these guys are a lot of the older, on more conventional styles that need to be adjusted.
The unfortunate truth of it is, like you said, Zach, most of the voters are on the older side, and they still can't get out of the fact that it was cheating. Zach, if me and you were on the ballot, we wouldn't care. We look at the numbers. We look at the moments. I told you yesterday, I said, it's time that we stop. It's time we start celebrating the moments that we're had. And like I said earlier when I started, if you don't win a count as the home run champ, Fine. Hank Aaron's a home run champ in your eyes. That's fine. But the numbers don't lie, Zach. The numbers lie because of what he did, but the other numbers don't lie.
No, you got to look at his career before that, and he still was at that high level. It's a shame for him, though. Personal decision making was obviously not the sharpest from that point. He has to be held accountable to an extent. But 10 years later, I think it's time to
like I said, earlier in the voting process, sure, Zach, hold against him. But 10 years later, come on.
They couldn't come around to it. It's unfortunate. Well, listen, baseball lockout is still underway. We will continue to discuss that. Not much happening in the baseball world, just not a lot of progress being made in those discussions. But yesterday appeared to be a little better. The final thing we'll talk about, very short and sweet, Joel Embiid should be the MVP. 15 straight games with 25-plus points. He's just playing at an insane level. And the Sixers are winning. Sixers are winning games right now. And it looks like that they're going to hold on to Simmons and try to get Harden in the offseason.
It's a shame, and going back to our remarks, it's a shame how a person put his all into everything that he was doing for the sport, for himself. And then you fast forward to later, and you got a guy, Ben Simmons, just sitting there losing money and not wanting to be there. It goes to show how the love of the game has really gone down. But, Zach, Joel Embiid is MVP right now. Him, John Morant, and I guess Nikola Jokic. They are your MVPs right now. MVP is a fluid award that no one knows what it's going to be until the end. Early it was Steph Curry, then it was Kevin Durant, then it was John Morant, now it's Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. Joel Embiid had, 16 games of 30-plus? He shattered the Sixers record, by the way. He has a 50-burger in there that, Zach, I was fortunate enough to attend it and witness that in person. This man doesn't win MVP. That's fine. But Daryl Morey, we definitely got to get him some help this offseason. And if James Harden's the answer was, Zach, I'm actually going to go against it and say no, it's not, because James Harden is, as of late, can't stay healthy as much and stay on the court, but it's still better than nothing. It's still better than a guy.
I'll take James Harden for 60 to 70 games a year over Ben Simmons any day. Ben Simmons not playing. It's a free player at this point for how good this team's been. With that being said, we'll see where this takes us. The Sixers are a team that certainly needs to continue to evolve. They're the sixth seed, but they're within 2 games of first. It's very close. They play the Lakers tomorrow, which is funny because they played the Lakers last year around this time, and they played the Lakers the year before that. They probably did it on purpose the day before. So, we'll bring that back to where we started the conversation. For those of you just tuning in, of course, 2-year anniversary of the tragic death of Kobe Bryant, and some of those that were also involved, including his daughter and some other friends that were on the helicopter with them. That's where we wrap it up for today. Our hearts are with the Bryant family and those other ones that were affected in this tragedy. And we hope that everybody, if there's any message that you can take away from the life of 8 and 24, is work hard, live every day like it's last, and just give it your all every second that you can.
It's like I'll say from something we've been saying for the past 12 months, life's too short. Enjoy the moment. You never know when last day, your day could be your last day. Enjoy it, Zach. We got a couple hours left of today. I'm just going to try to, knock some work out in the way and get it all done out the way as much as he would like me to do. And just a rough day. January 26th will never be a great day ever again in some people's eyes.
Yeah, just one of those events that just you remember it forever, and especially in the sports world, that's how impactful Kobe Bryant was. Well, listen, everybody, I want to thank you all for joining us today. Gavin, myself, we're going to be back, preview the AFC NFC Championship game. Hopefully we can discuss the lockout a little bit and talk about some NBA action. Against Sixers play tomorrow against the Lakers. They play at home against the Kings on Saturday. Then going into next week, Memphis, Washington. Then they go on a road trip to Dallas and then Chicago. We will see where that takes us. But with that being said, thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We hope you all enjoyed today's show. We'll see you all next time.
Love you, Kobe. Zach, when we going snowboarding? We gotta figure this out.
It's gonna snow Friday, so we gotta get going on that.
Gotta get aboard for sure. Gotta get aboard for
Sounds
sure.
Like
Love you,
all
Kobe.
right, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
See you, everybody. Have a good one.
If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. In addition, hit that bell icon and set it to all to get reminded of when we go live and when we post excerpts of our videos.